This is our last stop for today's poetry walk, a tradition that's been underway for more than 50 years. So thank you for being part of that conservation and keeping it up. All of us together this year. We're going to begin this last stop with a few poems. With us.
I keep my pledge. I was not called. Death did not notice me. I bring my rose. I fly again by every sainted bee, by daisy called from hillside, by bobolkin from lane, blossom and I, her oath and mine, we will surely come again.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And look, daisies called.
What is paradise? Who live there? Are they farmers? Do they hoe? Do they know that this is Amherst and that I am coming too? Do they wear new shoes and eat? Is it always pleasant there? Won't they scold us when we're hungry or tell God how the walls are? You are sure there's such a person as a father in the sky. So if I get lost there ever, or do what the nurse calls die, I shan't walk Jasper barefoot. Ransomed folks won't laugh at me. Maybe Eden ain't so lonesome as New England used to be.
If I shouldn't be alive when the robins come, give the one in red cravat a memorial crumb. If I couldn't thank you, being just asleep, you will know I'm trying with my granite lip.
What images? Daisies from the hillside, walking the Jasper granite lake right in front of us. I'm Jane Wall. I'm the executive director of the American Museum, and thank you again for being part of this 2025 poetry walk. We're here just to orient you a little bit. We're here just northwest of the homesteads. As the crow flies, it's really just less than a quarter mile from where we are now. There's a funeral procession moving in directly across that hill. West Cemetery is the oldest burying ground in Amherst, established in the 17th century. The oldest section of the cemetery is just behind you, closer to Emily's childhood home, aged 10 into the 20s. It's here in West Cemetery that Emily was laid to rest after her death on May 15, 1886. The cause of death entered on her birth certificate was Bright's disease. At the time, understood as a kidney malady, generally diagnosed in Dickinson's time when other diagnoses were uncertain. Today's researchers identify her end-of-life symptoms as more consistent with high blood pressure leading to heart failure. Dickinson left certain instructions for her funeral. Susan Dickinson, both sister-in-law and most trusted reader and friend, prepared Emily's body for burial. She was dressed in white with a knot of violets at her throat and laid in a white coffin with a wreath of violets as its only decoration. The pastor of the Congregational Church read from the scriptures. Friend and former pastor Reverend Jenkins led attendees prayer, and Dickinson's friend and literary mentor Thomas Wentworth Higginson read Emily Bronte's poem entitled Last Lines. He prefaced his reading by this introduction. Quote, I will read a poem our friend who is just now put on immortality and who seemed scarce ever to have taken it off, used to read to her sister. Bronte's poem concludes with this verse. There is not room for death, nor atom that his might could render void. Thou art being and breath, and what thou art may never be destroyed. The coffin was carried from the homestead through the garden and up into the fields between the homestead and the cemetery by 6 Irish laborers from the Dickinson houses. They were Thomas Kelly, whom Emily had designated as her chief pallbearer, Dennis Scannell, Stephen Sullivan, Patrick Ward, Daniel Moynihan, and Dennis Cashman. Emily was interred next to her parents, followed some years later by her sister Lavinia. And today, just like you, visitors from around the world pay their respects here, leaving behind pebbles, poems, flowers, pencils, and numerous other kinds of trinkets. Susan Dickinson penned an extraordinary obituary of Emily Dickinson that was published in the Springfield Republican on May 18th, just 3 days after her death. Susan wrote, as she passed on in life, her sensitive nature shrank from much personal contact with the world, and more turned to her own large wealth of individual resources for companionship, sitting thenceforth, as someone said of her, in the light of her own fire. Not disappointed with the world, not an invalid until within the past 2 years, not from any lack of sympathy, not because she was insufficient of any mental work or social career, her endowments being so exceptional, but the mesh of her soul, as Browning calls the body, was too rare, and the sacred quiet of her own home proved the fit atmosphere for earth and work. A Damascus blade, gleaming and glaring in the sun, was her whip. Her swift, poetic rapture was like the long, glistening note of a bird one hears in the June woods at high noon, but can never see. Like a magician, she caught the shadowy apparitions of her brain and tossed them in startling picturesqueness to her friends. How better note the flight of this soul of fire in a shell of pearl than by her own words? So now, in closing, I invite you to join me in raising your glass. Thank you for raising my glass. And speaking the poet's own words together, chosen by Susan. You'll find this poem as the final one in your poetry walk pack. So together, morns like these we parted, noons like these she rose, fluttering first and then firm.